was the murders of Ross Monaghan and Eddie Lyons Jr, plotted during a secret summit between the Daniels and associates of mob boss Mark Richardson. Ross Monaghan and Eddie Lyons Jr were shot dead in a bar in Fingarola on 31st of May.
Someone just got shot in the head for helping that.
3 days later, Police Scotland said there was no intelligence to suggest the murders were linked to an ongoing gang war, which has resulted in series of assaults, shootings and firebombings across Glasgow and Edinburgh. But on Tuesday, the Spanish National Police said Monaghan and Lyons Jr were targeted by a professional killer from the Daniel crime group. Police Scotland later told BBC Scotland News it stood by its previous statement and added it had no current evidence to suggest the double shooting was orchestrated from Scotland. The Spanish authorities have requested the extradition of the suspect, 44-year-old Michael Riley, after he was arrested by Merseyside police in the Liverpool area on Friday. The shooting happened in Costa del Sol in Spain after the accused masked gunman Michael Riley from Merseyside leapt out of a car outside an Irish pub on the beachfront in Fingarola. Monaghan and Lyons were two of the leading members of the Lyons gang. Chief Novo, head of the Malaga Provincial Judicial Police Unit, spoke at a press conference in the city on Tuesday. The senior officer said the murders had been carried out with a high degree of professionalism. Chief Novo described the suspect as an internal member of the rival Daniels gang who had meticulously planned the shootings. He told reporters Lyons Jr had been shot and killed while he sat at a table outside the bar, but he revealed the gunman's weapon then jammed, allowing Monaghan to attempt an escape inside the bar. The killer, who had covered his face with a cap and a scarf, pursued Monaghan before firing 2 shots which proved fatal. He then fled the scene using a route which included a train tunnel, where there were few security cameras. Chief Novo said the alleged gunman fled to Portugal from Spain by land before boarding a flight to Leeds. He then changed addresses 3 times on his return to England, before he was tracked down in Liverpool under an international arrest warrant. Investigators believe he was preparing to flee the UK for a paradise island, where no extradition treaty was available, but they did not disclose the exact location. The planning is said to have taken place in Kirkintilloch, 9 miles north-east of Glasgow, where Daniel clan members gathered for a council of war. Top-ranking members of the Daniel clan are said to have gathered at a secret location in Kirkintilloch with high-ranking associates of jailed Edinburgh drugs baron Mark Richardson. In recent months, members of this East Coast-West Coast criminal alliance have suffered in silence in the face of a relentless onslaught from their hated rivals, the Lyons, along with a relatively new face on the scene, Ross McGill. Firebombings on cars, homes and businesses, drive-by shootings that left bullet holes in doors and windows, a violent home invasion in Glasgow that left a young boy and an older woman, both related to the Daniel family, bloodied and battered, and a number of machete attacks, and one, an Edinburgh businessman who just happens to be an old friend of Richardson's, was hospitalised. And another, workers at a Daniel Link garage, East Kilbride, were injured by blade-wielding thugs, but nobody had been killed, and the word was starting to go out that the Daniels were defenceless in the onslaught of this violence. Not only that, they were being mocked by McGill and his crew. The former Rangers football ultra now lives in Dubai alongside Stephen Lyons, acknowledged as the head of the gang and associates of the Irish Kinahan cartel. And it is the backing of the Kinahans which is seen as crucial to the recent rise of the Lyons. But to imagine that the Daniels were finished is to ignore the longer term history of this bloody rivalry, which sparked into life with the bloody Applero motor shooting in North Glasgow in December 2006. in events later likened by Donald Findlay KC to a scene from The Godfather. Two gunmen in trench coats burst in and opened fire on David Lyons. He dived for cover, but his 21-year-old nephew Michael Lyons was shot dead, while Stephen Lyons and Robert Pickett were gravely injured. Now it appears that the Daniels may have pulled off another spectacular that will once again change the face of Scotland's underworld for years to come. The two rival gangs have their roots in the tower blocks and rundown council estates of North East Glasgow. The Daniels in Possil and the Lyons in Milton. Even today, this tough is jealously guarded. As recently as April, an ageing Daniel gang member was jailed for life for the shotgun murder of a Lyons foot soldier in Milton. Malcolm McNee was told he would die in prison for blasting to death John McGregor. Prosecutor John McPherson told Stirling Sheriff Court, "The background to this case is an ongoing feud between the Lyons and the Daniels organised crime groups. Westry Street is a regular meeting point for youths associated with the Lyons family, while members of the Daniel family live in adjoining streets. But while the rank and file still live here, in some of Britain's poorest neighbourhoods, the bosses have fled to the suburbs and housing estates in the countryside. And here too, the tough appears to be clearly marked, with the Daniels putting down roots in East Dunbartonshire and the Lyons based around Cumbernauld. At one stage, Eddie Lyons Sr and other family members all lived in one street, dubbed inevitably the Lyons Den, in an upmarket development off the M80, in new build homes fitted with bulletproof glass in the windows. Kevin Gerbil Carroll, the feared Daniel enforcer who was shot dead in 2010, moved to Lennoxtown, and his right-hand man, Francis Fraggle Green, swapped the mean streets of North Glasgow for rural Milton of Campsie, once described by the Glasgow Herald as a gangland village, much to the embarrassment of the locals. The late Jamie Daniel, who died of cancer in 2016, lived in a mansion in Glasgow's West End, but he too had links to Kirkie. In 2012, after a taxi nearly clipped one of his lovers outside the town's Tesco supermarket, the scrap metal dealer turned millionaire crime boss was accused of exacting personal revenge. The taxi driver was summoned to his office, where a man emerged from a BMW with blacked out windows and delivered a savage beating. So savage in fact that the driver couldn't recall what happened when the case ended up in court. All the other witnesses developed a similar amnesia, and Daniel walked free. Such memory lapses were also common among victims of Carroll's alien abduction crew, rival Lyons dealers who were kidnapped, tortured and taxed of their drugs and earnings before being dumped in the street. One individual was left wandering in the leafy village of Lenzie, causing neck cuttings to twitch. When the sadistic Gerbil was lured out of hiding and ruthlessly taken out by the Lyons crew in a sophisticated operation, the hit took place in the most mundane of surroundings, an Asda car park in Rob Royston, surrounded by busy, harassed mums and other weekday shoppers. Monaghan had been cleared of Gerbil's murder, and he is said to have been a marked man ever since, although it could be argued that the leading members of both gangs have lived their entire adult lives with a target on their backs. Some in Glasgow, including members of Police Scotland, are sceptical that the Daniels and Richardson mob had the means to organise the shooting in the Costa del Sol. However, one thing is for certain, there is vast amounts of profits to be made by the sale of drugs in Scotland, and these gang wars will always be around.
This is 2 days takes. 2 days takes for myself. This is why we don't stop. 2 days